Okay, I wanted to take you through our data that we had from June through August. And this data is based on our 4Jump power score from the jump mat that we use. And in June, after we got back from Besterns, we had collected a bunch of heart rate data during the tournament and really informed the different metabolic demands of your gameplay. So we kind of in the field currently don't really have any official data on work to rest ratios. And what that means is how hard are you working, what energy systems are you working in, and how much downtime or recovery time do we have between plays. So you know it based on the rules of the game, but sometimes metabolically that can be different based on different play strategies, based on different rotations. You know, if you're in every other versus if you're in every third or every fourth rotation, those all play a huge role in the metabolic and energetic demands of the game. So what we did was, based on the data that I collected, I realized that although a lot of people tout roller derby as an endurance sport, or they commonly say, I need more endurance, or we need to work on our endurance to get better, interestingly, the data that we collected suggested that no, it's not actually an endurance sport in regard to at least what we would define it as physiologically, which would be endurance events are more of a steady state, sub-maximal type training environment. And that is not what we found from the heart rate data. So we found that obviously players had very high heart rates when they were on the track. And then depending on your recovery time, you had anywhere from 2 to 6 minutes based on your rotation to recover. So what that told me was that we were actually more anaerobic and more power-based, given that we had most players on average 4 to 6 minutes to recover. So we were not training at a high enough intensity. So what we did after Besterns last year was we took that data and started creating more high-intensity circuits and high-intensity exercises, so you can manipulate the intensity of the exercise by selecting, the intensity of the workout by selecting specific exercises that will elevate your heart rate. So what we did was, try to more closely model the conditioning requirements that we found from the tournament at Besterns. So here is the data from the summer when we went back and made sure that we were metabolically conditioned and ready for playoffs. And so I was trying to, make those adjustments for this year. And looking at our data here, we can see, obviously it's expected because the kind of training we're doing is very rigorous. And so your power output did decline as fatigue started setting in. And week 3 would be your hardest week, usually heaviest loads, so you can expect to see the most amount of fatigue. And so that's about what we were seeing. We started here around the second or third week in June, and then going into July, first week of July, and then unloading here, you see this big spike. And so this was after our week 4 where we unload and allow them to freshen up and recover. So the good news was, even though they were declining in performance throughout the weeks, that 1 week was sufficient enough time to allow them to jump up back and hit even a new PR. So here, we started down at this player at 2.04 as her total power output that she was jumping. And again, this power output is a reflection of our fatigue, neuromuscular fatigue. So what we were looking at here is a new peak power output based on the training. And then again, so then we switched up the workouts. So, in my program, every 4 weeks, you're getting new workouts. And this second phase was a little bit harder. So you see here, as soon as we get going again, we drop. And again, there could be other environmental factors like nutrition and sleep and life stress too. Those are not weighted in this power score. It's just what the player reports. So that's not, we don't know why. This could be, what I'm trying to say is we don't know if this low point was strictly due to the training program, or if perhaps that particular day, maybe something else was going on, because that seems to be kind of an outlier for this particular player, given this whole cluster right here. And then she hovers around 2, and then again back up on load week. Oops, spikes again. 216, pretty close to 219. Okay, and only let me see, maybe one time does she ever, right here, this 179. So whatever was going on right here is the only point we should be really concerned with and say, okay, what was going on? Because this is really about 10% difference from the 219 that we saw before. So something that week was very drastic, and that is where we would need to caution if we saw this consistently staying 10% of a power decrease, that we would want to, change something with this particular player and say, okay, well, if she continues to decrease her power output outside of this 10% range, we might be looking at risk of injury because of fatigue. So the more fatigued you get, obviously the less control you have of your joints. That's called neuromuscular control. And so then if you don't have as much control, if you're on the track or skating or practice or whatever, you're at greater risk for injury. So overall, with our one recovery week, we see these numbers spike back up. And again, this power output is neuromuscular fatigue. This training block was designed specifically to rehash and train metabolic energy systems that we previously did not have data on. And so after that Veterans tournament, we had to make some adjustments mid-year last year, given the new data and the new information that I had to make a better judgment call and say, okay, if I did not make this change, even though we wouldn't really like to be doing metabolic work mid-year, if I didn't make the change, we ran the risk of being not properly conditioned for playoffs. So we just manage it and make sure that we gave them enough rest in the easy week to get those numbers back up for the neuromuscular power component. But really this phase was aimed at cardiovascular conditioning. So what we're doing this year is, now that we have a better idea of the work to rest ratios and the metabolic demands, we're sliding this out earlier where it should be into the off-season training. And some of you probably noticed your training circuits have gotten a lot harder. And so the point is, we're trying to get that metabolic work done early. And then hopefully now this year, what we can do is spend more time getting these peak power points even higher and more consistently as we approach playoffs. And that's what I would like to see this year. So I hope that gives you guys an idea about what we're doing and how we're really trying to apply data and the technology that we have accessible to us and really inform the decisions that we're making with the training. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions, that's how we're using the Power Score. And this is what we do in gym only, but for the online clients, just know that we're tailoring your programming around the data that we're collecting from actual roller derby athletes and their response to the programming that I'm designing, and in addition, their response to gameplay. So we had the opportunity, like I said, to gather heart rate data based on a tournament, and we had players at different positions, so that really informed what we needed to be doing. And so that's where this is all coming from. So just to give you an idea how we are, when we say, there's a lot of programs out there that probably try to be specific, but this is really, we are really doing our best here to use the data and the information that we have to really provide you with highly specific programming. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I hope to be able to do more quick little reports like this and give you some more insight as we go along this year, and hopefully, like I said, keep seeing these data points increase and become more frequent this summer, which should be our preseason and in-season phase in the 2018 annual plan. So hopefully this year, because we know what we're doing now, we can do that metabolic work earlier, and hopefully we start seeing these more, again, higher and more frequently, this power output score higher and more frequently. So that would be the goal going forward for the in-season and preseason in 2018. Okay, thanks for your time, and if you have any questions, again, feel free to shoot me an email or send me a question in the group.